and I want to talk to you today about the gift of being present. The gift of being present. I think today is a great day to take a lot of notes, jot some things down, and help you remember these things, especially as we head into a chaotic, frazzled, full of stress time of year, a moment when many of us are there, but we're not really there. Does that make sense? Let me read a couple of scriptures to you that I think will take a different angle. We'll have a different approach today. Matthew chapter 1, you've heard both of these verses, or all of these verses, but I think there's a really different twist on these that we can take today that will really fuel us. Matthew chapter 1, verse 22 says this, all this, speaking of the birth of Jesus, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Everybody say, God with us. In Psalm chapter 46, verse 1, here's what the scripture says. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in time of trouble. So we see these two verses where God is with us, and then we also see in Psalms that he's very present. He's there, he's here, and here's what I want to say to you. If God can be fully present with us, with all that he has going on, we can be fully present with those that we love as well. What does that mean? It means that you're there, that you are giving all of yourself to the moment that you're in. Now, I just want to say this because I know what it's like to be in the shoes of a busy family with lots of kids. And I know that there may be some initial objection. Like, Josh, come on, we've got 3 toddlers and a baby on the way. We cannot be present. We're just trying to get through the day, right? And I want you to very much understand that the reason this is important to me is that a lot of my life raising kids, having multiple jobs, trying to make ends meet, really I regret in a lot of ways because I allowed the stress and anxiety and busyness to keep me from being present. And we have an assignment to be like Jesus, to be like him who was God with us. And I believe this, that when you're in the presence with Jesus, he's not looking at what he wants to do next or who he wants to speak with next. All of his focus and attention is on you at the moment. Have you ever been in a room with someone but not really in the room with them? Have you ever been with someone who their goal is to see who they can talk to next and how they can get away from you? Anybody ever experienced that? I've experienced it. It drives me nuts. But I've been that person. And I wanted to give you some time to think about this. Some translations say God is our ever-present help, which means that, to me, God isn't sort of present. He isn't halfway or kinda present. He's not distracted or distant. He's fully there with us when we call upon him. Isn't that beautiful? So I want to suggest to you that just as he is fully present with us, we need to be fully present with those that we're with. And some symptoms of not being present are, just a few of them. A symptom that I've experienced is no memory of important moments because I was there, but I wasn't there. Most of my kids' upbringing, I'm sorry to say this, there's a lot that is a blur and that I don't remember because I wasn't there. I wasn't present. Another symptom is the feeling that maybe you felt this, that life is passing you by and happening to you against your will. This is a symptom of not being present. Another symptom is anxiety, stress, and pressure because you're thinking about where else and what else you should be doing and where else you should be. A symptom of not being present is rushing to the next thing without enjoying the current thing. I know we're about to go from house to house as we did. I remember the worst experience of Christmas of my entire life was we went to the three corners of the state of Ohio with small children to go visit grandparents. So we did this marathon trek from Newark to Gallipolis, Gallipolis to Canton, Canton to Sandusky, and by the time we got home, I was like, I don't ever want to do this again. Like, I did not enjoy the season. There was snow and traffic, and it was on to the next thing and not being able to be present. I think there are some reasons why we're not fully there that we have to kind of chat about for a minute. And back to parents for a moment. I don't want you to be feeling as though I am isolating you if you're parents, but I just want to caution you that we live in a very interesting time, and many of us will be tempted, parents, grandparents, guardians alike, we will be tempted to delegate us being fully present with our kids to giving them screen time on devices because it's easier. In the moment of being fatigued, stressed out, needing a break, it's easy to hand them a device just to keep them silent. Somebody say amen to that. And I think that's a mistake. I think it's a reason why we aren't present is because we're so busy with things. I hate to keep mentioning this, but you just can't get away from it. Another reason I think that we're not present is one of the things that COVID accelerated. It was already there, but it just became more prevalent, is this blending of home and work life. That as we worked remotely, and some of you still do, your dinner table is also your office. Where you eat is also where you answer emails. And in your kitchen, where you should have the security and safety of family, you're bombarded with what the boss is sending as an assignment, and worlds are colliding, and so we're not present because we've got one eye on the food and one eye on the device, and we're not able to be present because now where we don't have a safe place to go and work, for many of us, we're working where we're living, and that's really contaminating our life, and so we're not able to be there. I think another reason we're not present is because as Americans in the Western world, I think we have a really weird relationship with time. We are a slave to our schedules, and we teach our children to be a slave to schedules. I love teachers. I love people who work with our kids, but I have to get on a soapbox for a moment that the education system is not wired to help you be present. It is wired to fulfill their cause and agenda to educate your kids, and the bell ringing is kind of this conditioning of us to be going from one thing to the next. And this might bother someone, but it needs to be said. Many of us need to be delivered from the idolatry of our schedules and our calendars. It's going to get worse before. I know. Like, am I against calendars and schedules? No, you should see mine. It's quite structured. Am I right, Alex? Alex oversees my calendar, and it's quite structured. But there are times where I have to take a break and realize I am serving the schedule rather than the schedule serving me. I've watched young parents get tied up in these schedules and frustrated by it, and I wave my hands and do everything I can to alert them to, hey, you put it there, you can move it. It's not set in stone. And so because we're so focused on that schedule, and we have this weird obsession with time, and we don't want to be wasting time. especially in the Western world. Think about it, of all of the, I can't look to one particular passage, but if you were to look at the Gospels as a whole, you very rarely see Jesus in a hurry to follow the schedule. And it's interesting that in the modern world, I think the reason we're so obsessed with time is because we have clocks. Do you know that clocks are a relatively new phenomenon for humanity? And what am I saying? Am I saying get away from all of that? No, I'm saying it's reasons why we're not present. And here's what I want to say about this weird obsession that we have with time. We live in a culture that elevates busyness over stillness. That we're proud of how busy we are because we think it means we're accomplishing something, or it gives the illusion to others that we're important, that we're movers and shakers and we're getting stuff done. And can I just say to you that if that is a weird obsession that you have, it's challenging you and causing you at times to not be present. I think another reason why we are absent is we lack ritual. Now, if you're like me and you were raised in church, and the type of church that I was raised in, ritual was almost a four-letter word. It wasn't celebrated. It wasn't viewed as sacred. It was actually viewed as religious in a negative way. But I want to reclaim this word for you because this is the beginning of how you can start to change some things. To have lack of ritual means that we're absent. And what I think we do is we confuse ritual with routine. Ritual is sacred, routine is autopilot. You just do it. Let me give you a couple of examples that might start turning the corner on being more present and give you some personal examples of what I have realized are ritual for me. One thing that, especially at this season, let's just make it seasonal, something that's ritual for me is the wrapping of Christmas gifts. I do the lion's share of the wrapping of Christmas gifts, and I like that. And it's ritual for me. I didn't realize this. I just thought it was something weird. What you're going to find that your rituals are the things that people make fun of you because you're peculiar and weird because you like them so much. Just, now start searching in your life for it. Because I am very particular about Christmas gifts and how they're wrapped. They're supposed to be presentable. It is the prefix of the word present. It should look nice. This is me. This is my weird peculiarity. You've got to have the paper with the grid on the backside so your lines can be straight and your corners can be crisp. Some OCD Christmas wrappers say amen to that. They got to look nice. I see some people looking across the room at their fellow weirdos on Christmas wrapping. I see you. I can remember for nearly 6 or 7 years, I pick out the wrapping paper every year, and they all color coordinate, and each individual has their own different wrapping that matches the whole collective set. Come on, somebody. I can remember the themes. Now, I'm not just telling you a funny story. I'm telling you that, watch this, that when I realized that this was a ritual for me, I started reclaiming the gift of being present. Because I found that this was something that I did. I remember it. I was present. I know what box went in that paper and what gift was in that color. Why? Because I was present. Now, I'm not asking you to become a gift wrapper. I'm asking you to look deep into what are the peculiarities of who you are and lean into it and realize that those things that you might be weird about are calling out to you on how to be present in life. Like what you obsess over. I think that God is able to be with us and an ever-present help in time of our need is because he's obsessed with us. He's in love with us. Let's not be in love with these things, but let these things call us to an experience to where we can be there with our family, where we can be there with those who are there. I'm sorry to do this, but I have to tell you already and use a grandbaby illustration. This early in my grandparenthood, I realized something, that Charlie is now way more important than my phone. Like, I went several minutes without knowing where my phone was and didn't care. Well, let me give you another example, and I'll come back to that in just a minute. But let me give you another example of ritual for me. Cooking, specifically smoking. Smoking meat, not smoking that. Gotta be careful how you say it. Smoking meats, right, is a ritual. Making Thanksgiving dinner, what I'll do for Christmas. I've already ordered the cut of beef that I'm going to smoke, and I've already placed the order, and I have it organized in my mind. Why? What's the big deal? It's weird, Josh. No. For me, it's a ritual, and I'm present to be there with the people who are there. Golfing for me is a ritual at times. Other times, it's an idol. You got to watch, because your ritual can very much be converted over into something that you become consumed by. But when I say golf is a ritual, I can be completely present and chilled out and not obsess over things, and things are put out of my mind when I'm involved in that. What are those things for you? Some of you get your best ideas when you're getting ready for your day to start and when you're in the shower. Why? Because no one else is there invading your space unless you're the mother of an infant or a toddler. But what's the deal? You're present. You're there, right? And nothing else is invading that space. You remember things. I got to keep moving, but reasons we aren't absent are past traumas and hurts. And so how can we be more present? I'd like for you to write this down and remember it to take the pressure off of your life, because if you're not careful, you could allow the idea of being present to be a source of pressure and another stressor on your life. And that isn't what this is meant to be. But I want you to look at this idea of being present as a skill to be developed. A skill to be developed. What's that mean? Work on it day by day. There's a beautiful passage of scripture in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16 says this, but whenever someone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. For the Lord is the Spirit, and wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. So all of us who have had the veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, here's the part that I want you to pay attention to, makes us more and more like Him, the one who's ever present, the one who's with us. The Spirit of God that lives on the inside of the believer makes us more and more like Him as we are changed into His glorious image. 2 Corinthians 3:16 from the NCV says it this way, but when a person changes and follows the Lord, the covering is taken away. The Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. Our faces then are not covered. We show the Lord's glory, and we are being changed to be like Him. The change in us brings ever greater glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. What am I saying to you? I'm saying that when you approach this idea of being more like Him, you can do it in small, incremental steps, not in these giant leaps. In other words, You're not going to be fully present and give the gift of being present with those around you before Christmas. You're going to go in and out of consciousness. You're going to go in and out of being present. Now listen, don't think that this subject is a small matter. It's massive to me. It's vastly important that we give people the gift of being present. Let me just ask an easy question, a question that's easily answered. When you call on God, do you want to know that He's present? Or do you want to call on a God who's distant and distracted? I want a God who is an ever-present help in time of need. And I've taught you this over and over, that a part of our assignment is to be, and this verse just echoed this, that we are to be a reflection to others of Jesus in the earth. Our life is simply a mirror that reflects who He is. And I want you to understand something, that you will communicate something so loud, so powerful, so different from everyone else around you when you're fully present. I want to grow in this. I want to grow in this, and I want that anytime I'm in someone's presence, that they think they're the only person in the whole world. That they feel like they're seen. It's small, but watch this. A few minutes ago when I was talking about gift wrapping, and some people in the room literally were looking around and elbowing people and nudging them and saying, hey, that's us. You know what was happening? You were being seen. And it meant something to you. Imagine giving the gift to others that they're seen. Do you want to know what will repel the Spirit of Jesus to others? Is rather than people being seen, when you're absent or when you're distant or when you're dismissive, they don't feel seen, they feel judged unworthy of the gift of you being present with them. I didn't intend on saying this part, but I think it's worth repeating. My youngest daughter, one day when she was in high school, she just absolutely lost it with me. I mean, she just really gave me the what for. And I came home, and I was on the phone, and I hung up, and she went off. I'm talking about Audrey. Little, sweet, innocent, kind Audrey. She went off. And when Audrey goes off, she goes off. And you're completely disarmed. It doesn't happen very much. I think I probably carried the brunt of it and her going offness because I've earned it perhaps. She went off. She's like, Dad, every time you walk in this house, you're on the phone. Every time. Well, what do you do when they're right? You want to know what happened? I got defensive. And I have enough self-awareness to know that defensive Josh is not the Josh that you want to interact with. He's not fun. And I was like, so what? Who freaking cares? My house, I pay for it. My garage, my car, I pay for your phone bill, by the way. So what are you doing telling me what I'm supposed to do with my phone bill? And I was really tempted to turn her data off. Come on, somebody. Like, I was ticked. She was right. And what was she saying? Dad, you're not present. And I don't feel seen. Now, after I kind of relaxed, took a breath, and was able to go back and reflect on what she said, I realized she was right, and I realized that there was help that I needed. And not because of that conversation, but because of other things. We made a hire at the church because I was overloaded and overwhelmed, and we hired Pastor Larry. And Audrey graduated from high school, and when she graduated high school, she wrote Pastor Larry a note. I might have told you this before, but it bears repeating right here. In the note to him, and they both agreed that I was allowed to know what she wrote. In the note, Audrey wrote, "Thank you for being a help to my dad. I feel like you gave me my dad back." And that's when this journey of being present kind of started forming language for me. I was like, I don't want to not be present. Listen to me. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have a full plate and a full schedule. But we've got to reclaim the gift of being present. And we have to tell other people no, that they don't get us for the people who matter most, who should get us. I've said this to you before. I don't think you're offended by it. But I will never put anyone above my family. I won't do it. I didn't expect that, but thank you, because I think it's an interesting thing that our church has been brilliant at this and so kind, that we put pressure on each other. But I've watched as people who do what I do will run themselves ragged for people who at the end of the day, they don't care. They don't. They're trying to get what they need. And it's interesting because I believe this about you. You want me to have a strong family. You want me to be physically healthy. You want me to lead by example, right? And in order to do that, I have to be present just like you do with the people that you care most about. And don't feel like I'm inaccessible and you can't have interactions with me. I'm not saying that, because I already said that our church has been completely brilliant over the years. But what I want you to see is that part of me endeavoring to lead by example is hoping that you'll take these principles and put them into practice in your life as well, so that you'll be fully present. Hey, dads, can I talk to you dads for a minute? Make it your number one priority for the next 3 weeks, that you are going to be intentionally present with your family. That means your phone is gone. Nothing else gets in. I don't mean physically present. I mean emotionally present, fully there. Fully there. Moms, I want to give every mom of young kids, I think, the best advice and wisdom that a male can give you. Let the house be messy. Your kids don't freaking care. I know some of you just kind of like overreacted to that inside. Oh my God, Josh, there's syrup on the counter right now. I can't handle it. No, let me tell you something. When you're dead and your kids stand up to speak about you, you don't want them talking about how you kept a clean house. That's not important. They will not remember that the dishes were on the counter and that you didn't dust. And I shouldn't be sexist because men can do those things too, but I've observed that women take a disproportionate amount of the stress over houses not being clean, just generally speaking, right? Like, if the choice is do the dishes or be present with your kids, just be present with your kids. And after you're present with the kids, get a step stool and take them to the sink and let them be present with the dishes. And then after you're done with that, take them to the laundry room and let them be present with the washing machine and the dryer. And then when you're done with that, take them back to the kitchen and let them be present with a turkey and cheese sandwich with some mayo on it. I'm not even joking right now. Like, I don't know if I've made the point yet or not, but get the freaking devices out of their hand and give them the gift of being present with them, because Google and YouTube is not their future and their legacy. Your faith, your love, your investment into them needs to be the thing that they remember most.